Hello there, my stamping friends. How are we all doing on this Monday evening? If you had the opportunity to be out celebrating over the holiday weekend, I hope you had an enjoyable time. We were up at our place near Castle Rock Lake in Wisconsin, and it initially looked like we were supposed to get a lot of rain and storms, and it pretty much missed us, which was kind of awesome. So Zach got two boat rides because it was a long weekend for us. We didn't have work on Friday. He didn't have work on Friday, and neither did my husband. So we got to go up a little bit earlier, and so he got a boat ride on Friday and Saturday. So that was a bonus for him, which of course he enjoyed every minute of. That is definitely his happy place in the summer, is in the boat on the lake with Dad. So no, hopefully you all had a good weekend and are getting ready to settle in here and make a quick card with me. This one is going to actually be a pretty quick one tonight. Doesn't have a whole lot of moving parts, so to speak. I'm going to point out to where the inspiration came from. It is this sample right here on page 42 of the Hi Carla, oh, I'm so glad you're ready to go with me. So page 42 of the May to August, I always forget what months we're in, May to August catalog. This card right here, I did alter it just a little bit because when I'm cutting my DSP, I really like to play nice with the dimensions so that you don't have a lot of waste. And since it usually is either, a 6-inch or a 12-inch thing, using 3s and 4s as an even cut really helps a lot. So I didn't do the full width of my card. I cut your DSP down to 4 inches. So we will have a little bit of a border, but this is basically what we're going for tonight. And so what you need to have handy is a piece of neutral cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11. And we're going to score that at 5 1/2. I have very vanilla. You need a small piece of neutral, about a 1/2 to 3/4 inch width and about 2 1/2 inches long. Retired has to feel good though, right, Carla? And a phrase to fit. So if your phrase is a little longer, a little, whatever that is, adjust that piece. This is your project and you do you. So I'm just going with a ballpark range there, and you adjust that as you need to. And then your DSP, you're going to cut 2 3/4 by 4. And so the 2 3/4 is going to be the height, 4 is the width, and I'm going to be using one of my new favorite DSPs. You've seen me use it, I don't remember how many times now already, the Gingham Gallery DSP that comes in all of the new in colors. So that is actually now available. Those July online exclusives have dropped, so these are now available for purchase as opposed to just the preview I have been giving you guys. And then all of the stamp sets I'm using tonight, well, not all of them, but some of them are in that newest release as well. So you'll get an opportunity to see some of them in play and already be able to order them. Yay! Then you needed 2 pieces of cardstock that are a 1/2 inch by 3 3/4. Initially, when I saw this sketch laid out, I follow a Facebook page, and I will drop a link to it in the comments, like with the photo album and stuff. It's called Casing Tuesday, I believe. So every Tuesday. So if you're not familiar with the term case, CASE, it means copy and share everything. And it's a way for us stampers to say, hey, I like everything you did there, and I'm going to do it the exact same way. So what they do is the people who run this Facebook group comb through the catalog and look for samples, and then they post the image and cutting directions that they see are interpreting as that. And initially they had a piece of cardstock being behind the whole thing, and I personally just thought that was a little wasteful. I didn't want to waste my cardstock behind there, so we're just going to be using a couple of strips to make it look like we have a layer situation going. So 2 thin strips that are 1/2 inch by 3 3/4, and then some kind of focal point that you've die cut or stamped and fussy cut or something like that. You just want to have one image of something on there. I am using one of the new elements in the July online exclusives. This is Pretty Poinsettia. It also has a matching die set. Let me get my poinsettia pieces out of the way a little bit here. So stamp and die set. So we're going to be doing a little Christmas in July. And for all my Hallmark fans out there, yay, Christmas in July. It's here. We're watching Christmas movies while we sweat outside. So I have elements that I'm going to be using from this tonight, both on this and then on my stepped up version. I'm going to incorporate a couple of the dies. So this is going to be a great layering set. from making three-dimensional poinsettias when you're using just your dies. And then, of course, these images will have matching die cut pieces as well. So this is going to be one of my new favorite bundles, I think. And I love the mix and match of fonts when they do that. I think this is just so pretty. So pretty poinsettia, aptly named as far as I'm concerned, is what I'm going to be using here on camera tonight. And I pre-did my elements. So you can see I did my poinsettia and 2 of my leaves. This is done in Peaceful Pine. This is done in Cherry Cobbler. And instead of using the stamp for the center, hopefully this is going to show up, I grabbed my Golden Glow shimmer brush. And I colored, I know it's focusing on my poinsettia right now. I colored the inside of that with this instead. So if you're not familiar with the shimmer brushes, they do come in all the new in colors. And so think of it kind of like Wink of Stella and an ink refill had a baby. So every time you're going to be using this, it's going to stay this golden glow color, but it's spitting out glittery, glimmery, shimmery prettiness along with the color. So it's kind of like I said, if you had ink in your Wink of Stella, this is exactly what it might look like. Okay, let's go ahead and get assembly rolling. So take that card base. Hi, Darla. Sweat outside. Yes, I know. We had a warm week here. I don't know where you guys are all, but here in Wisconsin, or at least my area of Wisconsin this last week, we were hitting feels like hundreds, and that is not a good area for me. I do not like those high, sticky, humid. Ugh. Definitely don't like those. Okay, so we're going to start out with our DSP. We're going to go ahead and lay that about in the middle of our card front. And I'm going to use the big side for this one here. And like I said, unlike the sample I showed you, I did cut this down just a little bit, so there's going to be a little bit of a border on that part there. But I like that. I think that I like that cutting measurement the best, is when I use my ones that I don't feel like you're using a lot of waste when you do that. All right, then grab those 2 pieces of cardstock, and we're going to have one on top with about similar, space to the edges there. And I'm going to do this upside down because it just makes more sense to me somehow. Then those are there. So like I said, it looks like you have a piece of Cherry Cobbler, for me anyway, a piece of Cherry Cobbler cardstock hiding behind my DSP, but I didn't waste all that extra Cherry Cobbler cardstock. So that's what I liked about doing it that way. All right, setting that off to the side for a second, I'm going to go ahead and grab that piece of vanilla that I'm going to be using for my phrase. And I'm going to be stamping that in Cherry Cobbler. And it's going to say Bright Christmas Wishes. Boop. There we go. Bright Christmas Wishes. I think I stuck my finger in it, but it should be okay. I think I'm going to I'm going to lay everything down flat on this sample, and then I will show you as I go through other samples where you have opportunities maybe to pop things up on dimensionals or something like that, if that's what you like to do. I'm going to aim for this to be about here, and that gives me plenty of space for my focal point. So play with that a little bit about, depending how long your phrase is, where you want your focal point to sit, and see how that goes from there. So I'm going to put a little adhesive just right in the middle of my poinsettia, because I'm going to end up tucking my leaves behind it, and that way it still gives me a little bit of lift to get under there with my leaves. I'm just going to take my leaf directly to my glue dot here. And like I said, I'm going to tuck it under my poinsettia, boop, and make sure he's not going off the card too much. There we go. There's one leaf. And I'm going to grab my other one. And I think I'm going to stick this one down here. Lift him up a little bit. And there we go. So like I said, this one, super quick and simple. Really easy if you need to do a stack. Quick cuts. Hi, Tina. Thanks for joining me tonight. So let's see. Carla, if you're asking me, no, we did not end up with any storms. They kind of avoided us. We thought we were supposed to have an icky, rainy weekend, and it did not turn out that way, which I was a little thankful for, because like I said, it gave us the opportunity to be outside more than we might have. And bunch of our lake neighbors go crazy with fireworks. So we had lots of fireworks for 2 nights because we avoided the rains. So lots of really fun stuff happening up there at the lake. So, like I said, so there's my basic sample. So like I said, this one is easily duplicatable. Again, that 4-inch width of your DSP is going to be a really easy cut. And, Yeah, and then your focal points, whatever you're doing here. So this is a nice little layout, a nice way to show off a really pretty DSP that you might have. So I really kind of like the way that this one turned out. So I was glad that I spotted that, that card sample on that Facebook page. Like I said, I will have a link to that, that casing the catalog group, so that if in case you wanted to follow it, in case you cased it, in case you would like to follow along as well. All right, so let's go through some other samples. Here is one that I have done using the new Violet Dreams designer series paper. What's kind of cool about this paper, oh shoot, I forgot to bring that page down with me. There's so two of the sheets that you get in there are actually like, they're already pre-done pieces that you can just pop out and use as elements on your card. So there's a whole variety of different sizes and colors of violets. And so that's what I did. I grabbed one of the purpley ones here and a leaf, and I added that as my, my part right there. I also used the Ink Color Pearlized paper, so that's Peaceful Pine with some little bit of shimmery paper and a couple of rhinestones just to brighten that up. And then I did a little flag cut on my my banner, and you can see I did it kind of the opposite direction, so it's off from the right and then instead of from the left. So that's another way you could change up your layout, is deciding where you want your focal points to be and where your phrases might fall in the best. All right, so that again was I used the Botanical Expressions and the Violet Dreams designer series paper. All right, another one using Botanical Expressions, totally different look. So I also used the die that comes with it. It's the one where it cuts this kind of furred leafy pattern, and I had a few pieces of that left over from another project that were already done in Basic Beige. So I grabbed my Brush with Beauty designer series paper because I thought that one fit in really nicely with this these color schemes. So I have Basic Beige, a little bit of Very Vanilla in the cardstock itself, and then I this here with the Brush with Beauty brings in some of the mellow or Mossy Meadow color, and I had a nice long phrase this time, so I decided to make it part of the focal point. So I banner cut each edge, and then I've got some of those little fern pieces kind of peeking out behind there. And again, I grabbed my Antique Pearls, which are more of this vanilla-y color, and I'm really loving them with this Basic Beige Mossy Meadow kind of combo situation that we have going on here. So there's a different idea using, like I said, depending on the sizes of your phrase, bring it in as part of it, make it be, whatever portion you like. And this DSP really just kind of shone all by itself, so I didn't want to do too much of covering it up with any other elements. And that's why I thought these leafy elements from the Botanical Expressions really helped make that happen in what I was going for. Hi, Joan. Thanks for joining me again today. Appreciate you being here. Then I went back to my Cutest Crew, which I think is just an adorable little set. All those little doggies, kitties, and birds, and some matching dies. I think this one is so fun. I used, let's see, which one did I use here? Delicate Dreams designer series paper. So that had that cute little square pattern going on there. And then you'll see in the pieces I have here for the cardstock, I used one of the other dies from the Cutest Crew that cuts out all those little paw prints, which I thought was a nice little added element. And then some of the standalone dies will just directly cut out little doggies or kitties or birds. So I took advantage of that with my gray granite cardstock and used some die cut dogs and along with those little paw prints. And then my neutral in this case is actually crumb cake. So I'm using a variety of different ones. So far we've seen white and Basic Beige, Very Vanilla, and now crumb cake. Those are all great neutrals that you can use to launch your cards with. All right. And this last one here is another new release from the July online exclusive. It's called Learn and Grow. If you have a special teacher in your life or want to do some things fun for kids as they go back to school, this one's going to be a really cute set to have. And I love the coloring options. That you have a couple things here that if you like to color, that's going to be really awesome. So I went to Garden Poetry DSP, and I used one of the opposite sides here, had this really neat ombre kind of modeled look in the Poppy Parade color. So that is pretty much just white and Poppy Parade going on throughout my whole card. And it had, if you see this little stamp right here, has these 3 stars. I stamped those all across my cardstock borders. So added just a little element of interest there. And then I made it look kind of like I was writing with my crayon. So I have my Just a Note and I have my crayon tip right there, that the crayon I colored with my Poppy blends and with just a little bit of basic black to put in those little, to finish off the crayon look right there. So those are all those samples. Let's go back to the beginning. Here is the one I made on camera for you. And then here is my stepped up version, not too much different as far as layout goes. I did switch up several elements though. I used the, well, I did use the opposite side, I believe, of the plaid. Yep, that's the narrow plaid part. I took both my pine blend and my black journaling pen and a ruler, and I made even more of a plaid out of my gingham. So just drew lines all over both directions with my ruler. So that was really kind of a fun way to step that up. And then I grabbed that pearlized paper again in the Peaceful Pine color. And then I did die cuts for my poinsettia. And you can see here for this, the leafy part here, I stamped those on the shimmery Peaceful Pine paper. So they've got a little sparkle to them. Ooh, look at that. It caught the camera really well. And then I added some gold sequins from the metallic gems to finish that off. So there you go. Like I said, this is a great way to use, if you want to do a quick stack. I think this layout works really, really well. A couple of pieces of thin cardstock along with, a piece of designer series paper and maybe just a phrase and you are good to go. So hopefully you enjoyed tonight's layout. And again, if you decide to make one now along with me or later, when I post the album, you can post a photo right there in the comments. If you go and you start to click to make a comment, there should be an option to select a photo and you just upload it right there and then tell me what you made. I would love to see what you guys have all made along with me. Appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of your week and I will see you again next Monday night. Everybody take care.